Hello, everybody. Hopefully, with a little bit of luck, you can hear me. Like some sort of acknowledgement of you being able to hear me would be really cool. So I've never tried this before with the setup that I have here at home, but so far it looks like it's working okay. Happy New Year. I've been quite busy and quite quiet recently. Over the last 4 weeks since I last put up a video, I've been training. I enjoyed a Christmas period at home with my family, and I've done lots of other stuff away from bike riding and away from family life as well. There's a few things that you probably don't know yet since the last time I was here. One of them is that St. Piran now have this really bold, vibrant orange clothing. Hopefully the microphone hasn't ruffled too much there, which I think when you're out on the road is amazing. And on the St. Piran note, there is some absolutely amazing news, and that is that in 2021, they've achieved a UCI Continental license, which is huge news because that means that they will now finally be at the correct level to ride an event such as the Tour of Britain, which will be coming to Cornwall. It's our national tour here. So my camera setup right now is right in front of me where I'm looking right now, but over to the left slightly, all the comments and things that are coming through right now. So it's quite nice to see that actually you can indeed hear me. That's a bit of a relief because, like I said, I've never actually tried this before. I had no idea what to expect. So back in the middle of December, which was the last time you'd heard from me, I said that I would answer a few questions in a Q&A. So true to form for myself, I haven't actually prepared those questions. I've left them on my phone, which is a bit of a flaw of mine sometimes. So if we go to that last video and I start working through those questions, if you have any questions, I can see a few comments. I can see comments from Simon Brearley, from Ray Gatland, from Daniel Saba, Juju Ryan, Lord D Lego, Jacob Randolph, Ashley Sutton, Daniel Saba, John Rogers, and Everything Cycling. Oh, that's a good question, actually. So we'll start with that question from Everything Cycling. What's my favorite bike, an e-bike or a cross-country bike? And I think it's an interesting question because I find myself quite often wondering, I'm getting warm, obviously quite nervous. I find myself often quite wondering if I could only have one bike, what would it be? Because I love riding the e-bike because it's hilarious fun, but equally the cross-country bike is, you can do everything on it. It's almost like you can ride on the road on it quite happily if you blow the tires up and lock the suspension out. So for Everything Cycling, I would choose a cross-country bike. The reality is most e-bikes are quite long travel, and to be really honest, like I enjoy riding quickly, but I don't think I can push an e-bike to its limits. So part of the fun is getting to the limits of the bike, and I find a cross-country bike is quite good for that. Daniel Salva would like to know, have I ever done the Beaumont Trophy? I have done the Beaumont Trophy. So depending on where everyone's watching this video, the Beaumont Trophy is in the north of England, in Northumberland, and the roads are really, really hard there. Mark Haylett. So Mark Haylett, he rides Bosch e-bikes. He's got a really nice Cannondale e-bike, and we rode together back in December, I think it was. E-bike is more fun. You're right, Mark, an e-bike is more fun, but if I could only have one. The Beaumont Trophy. So the Beaumont Trophy is a UCI race in the UK. It's in the north, and it's a hard race. It's a hilly race. It's lots of laps around just quite rugged terrain. And in 2012, I managed to finish second in it. So yes, I have done that race before. That's the only time I've ever had a good result there. A question here from Georgia Mahoney. Who's your favourite podcast? Well, it have to be yours, Georgia's, because in 2 weeks' time, I think it is, I'm going to be on your podcast. That is the Cycling Talk podcast. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Nick Joy, sorry I'm early. I lied about the time. This morning I thought it'd be a good idea to schedule it for 7:55 p.m. No idea why. Jacob Randolph should make some videos with Cameron Jeffers. Well, if the world wasn't the way it was right now, I'm sure we would have done last year when we were meant to be teammates. Would you like to get back to ride the Rutland Cycle Classic? That's from John Rogers. And yeah, absolutely. I think the Rutland Cycle Classic is probably one of the best races here in the UK. So the Rutland Cycle Classic, it's got lots of off-road sectors. It's kind of like gravelly, like farm tracky, and it's one of the more exciting races. Though weirdly, it's not those sectors that decide the race. It's actually quite a hilly race and a very twisty race. The roads are very narrow, they're very technical. It's a lot of fun to ride. It's a lot of fun to ride when you have good legs. Yeah, I'd love to do that again. I did Leadville. What would be your advice to a first timer? I want to finish under the 12 limit. My age is 54, if that helps. That's from Chris Bone. My advice for Leadville, is the way back is actually a lot harder than you expect. On the way out, so the Leadville is a race in the USA, and it's a race across the sky. It's actually a really, that's what they call it. It's a really high altitude event in Colorado. And I was really lucky to do it in 2019, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of the best things I've ever done on a bike, just because of the camaraderie and the whole atmosphere around the event. So yeah, it's a long, long day out on a bike, 105 miles on a mountain bike, and a lot of it is off-road. There are little road sections, so pace yourself up until the top of Columbine Mountain, and then on the way back, that's when you can start to get a little bit harder. There's loads of questions. This is really cool. Have I ever done the Roy Tame Cup in Buckinghamshire? I have. And I've ridden those roads quite a lot with someone called Dexter Guardius, because we briefly, she's behind the camera. We lived in Oxfordshire for a little while. And the Roy Tame Cup is a really good event. And the roads around that area, I really enjoy, because on the whole, they're quite quiet. Daniel Saber, my favourite UK race. Okay, just before I answer that one, George has come back with the Cycling Talk podcast is correct. So if you're looking for a podcast about cycling, look out for that one. Favourite race in the UK? That's quite difficult. I always enjoyed the Tour Series because it took you to loads of different places, and I was good at short races. But my actual favourite race in the UK, maybe Rutland, actually, because it is interesting. It is unique. It has an atmosphere about it that other races don't seem to get. Best tip for winter training down here in Cornwall from Tom Fletcher. Mudguards, but I never used to use them when I was younger. I'm smiling because I've just seen another question which makes me laugh. Mudguards, always take something to put on because it guarantees rain at some point on a ride in Cornwall. And don't rely on village shops because they're few and far between, and often their opening hours can be quite unpredictable, especially at the moment. Stick to the quiet roads as well. Even though they're dirtier, they're going to be safer because the roads in Cornwall where we live are quite busy. Nabil Akhtar, favourite hairstyle? As you can tell, actually no, it doesn't look too bad, at least in the camera angle I'm looking at the moment. I'm not that worried about my hair. I don't mind doing anything to it because I know at some point it's going to grow back. Well, I feel like I'm talking faster than ever, and that's because I'm trying to get through all these questions. Everything cycling. Ever thought about going gravel, or is the Lapierre XC bike basically the same? Yeah, I quite like the idea of gravel riding because imagine this: it's like a road bike. Put road tires on it. Also, you could put slightly gnarlier tires on it, slightly more robust tires, and you could do a ride where you just crisscross across the roads and across gravel tracks. There's lots of old disused railways where we live from the old mining times, and I think it would be a lot of fun to ride on so many different types of terrain, but also be quite far away from vehicles and cars. Like I said before, the roads in Cornwall are relatively busy. Andrew Pollard, how fit do you need to be to start racing? The answer is quite simply fitter than I am right now. But it depends on what level you're talking. So if you're asking for yourself personally to start racing, you just need to feel good and confident in yourself. I think that's really important. If you're confident on a bike and you feel fit enough, as in you can keep up with your local club and you're excited by racing, that on the whole will be enough to get you through, because a lot of the first time races that you'll ever do will be tailored towards someone that's never raced before. So you'll be in a big group, you'll be able to get the benefit of the draft in the slipstream and things like that. I've spoken a lot, haven't I? And really quickly as well. YouTube offered me the ability to put this video out at 0.75 speed, and I don't think I checked that box. So if you watch it later or as live, then you may well have missed out on that. Is 4.3 watts per kilo FTP good for a 15-year-old during December when I did it? This is from Daniel Saber. Yeah, that is good. I think you'd probably find that you're riding quite fast at that sort of pace, as in putting out that sort of effort. So 4.3, if you're 60 kilos, that's already, test of the mass, well over 240 watts for a threshold, and that's for a very light rider as well. So yeah, you'll be going quick. You don't need to worry about that. Tips for junior or youth riders. This is from Ollie Skills. Just enjoy what you're doing. If you're enjoying what you're doing, then all your success and all your enjoyment and what you go on to do will come from that. You'll find that the more you enjoy something, the more you get out of it. And I think that's something that I wish I'd focused on a little bit more when I was younger. I've got a little distraction here. You can't quite see it on the camera, but our dog has turned up. I want some attention. She doesn't understand that I've kind of put this in my diary and committed to doing something else. Gallon Keller, purely ride on feel, not aero, steel or carbon? No, I don't purely ride on feel. I like aero bikes, and if I was choosing steel or carbon, I would choose carbon, just because it's probably easier to tailor, fabricate the qualities that you want out of the bike. Steel bikes look amazing. I've got nothing against them whatsoever. I used to have a really nice steel bike years ago, but I would still choose carbon. Looking at getting my wife an e-bike so she can ride with me. Thanks to you, Micah. Oh, cool. That's from Robbie Beauchamp. That's really cool. Yeah, having that e-bike, we've not been out over the last few weeks just because of everything going on. And the weather, it's been so wet, which means lots of things. Who really wants to ride the bike in the rain every day? But also means it's difficult to film, which is part of the reason why I've not uploaded anything. That e-bike has absolutely transformed it for us to ride together again. It's been amazing. What's my highest 1 minute power from Jacob Randolph? 925 watts. And it took me a long time to break the 900 watt barrier, like genuinely 7 years of non-stop trying. When I say non-stop, every time I knew that I was strong. Chris Bohm, was Micah a professional rider before we met? No, but she raced to a good level in the Netherlands, which is how we met. She's saying no, she didn't. Mr. Creepington, I can't watch right now. Will this be up as a video? My understanding is that this will get uploaded as a video. Jaffa cakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, that'd work. I mean, you'd have lots of energy. I'm not sure it'd be the healthiest thing to eat. That's from Hunky121121. Maybe he sells Jaffa cakes. Oliver Miller. Hey, Chris, have you got a training plan that I follow at this time of the year? And does it differ much from the coming months? So, yes, I do. I'm really lucky that my training is supplied to me by a company called Spokesfit. And I have a coach called Stefan Mastella, who I did briefly do a video with Pav from that company back in November. Well, not briefly, it was a 30-minute video, actually. It's a really good one about mental health and how that's important for athletes. It will be different. It's really complicated to try and know how much to train at the moment because no one really knows what's going to happen in 2021. And the level at which I was intending to compete makes it even more difficult. So it's not, it's not like the World Tour riders where they can live in their little bubble, they can get transported around the world and they're away from everyone. The level that I would like to compete at is quite a blurred level between professional and amateur. Some of the events that we do are truly amateur events, and equally some of them are truly professional events. And that makes it very hard to then segregate us away from society and ensure that everything's safe. And that, I think, was one of the main complications last year, which is why we didn't end up racing at all. So how does my training change? It is all based personally on how much I did last year, how much fitness I lost when I wasn't really training, because I did take a good few months off and I just rode my bike and had a lot of fun. There are lots of intervals throughout the week, although not this week gone, but the week before, I did just an entire week of purely riding my bike, which is just over 20 hours of long endurance rides and just pedaling away and sort of exploring. As we get towards the season, things will become more specific and, in a way, more intense. But equally, if you're riding the races at the weekend, you can't do the intensity in the week as well. So there'll be more recovery in there as well. It's quite a difficult one to answer accurately in a short space of time. Oh, look, Daniel Saber is under 60 kilos. That's a good guess. Hey, Chris, 6:40 a.m. Sunday in Australia. Good morning, Troy Collett from Australia. I imagine your weather is much better than our weather. How's Micah doing with the comeback from Ashley Sutton? Well, it was going really, really well. And then the whole December rainy month and Christmas and work and family commitments and things like that did get in the way a little bit. And actually at the moment, we have the lockdown situation here, and then we have our children at home, homeschooled, and I've just started taking on a lot more work, doing other things, which actually makes it quite hard to find the time to ride together at the moment. But we can guarantee you, Mike is behind the camera, that at some point she will be back on a bike on the road. She started again on the turbo trainer this week doing some indoor rides. So yeah, it's going to happen. I'm sorry about the pronunciation on this one. Awab Abdulahi, please correct me if I'm wrong. What's up, Chris? I'm somehow still consistent on the turbo. Thanks for the vids. They keep me motivated. Thank you. Julie Mahoney, how do you like to relax and recover? About 20 minutes ago, I was falling asleep. I was a little bit nervous about doing this, if I'm really honest, and had no idea what to expect, and I felt pretty tired. So yeah, how do I relax? Just sit down and don't do too much. I like to watch documentaries. The more boring something is, the more I switch off. I don't mean that as in boring, but the more complex and intricate the information is that's coming through, the more I shut off from real life, and meaning the more I relax, and quite enjoy doing that. or going for adventures with my kids like we did this afternoon. I'm going to miss a few questions here. Live streams do become videos on the channel right after they finish. Live chat replay should follow within minutes or hours. Lord DeLego, thank you for that. That's helping me get a little bit of an understanding for what I'm doing. Do I still present on GCN or have I left? I left almost exactly a year ago from Leonard Peterson. Do I do my own rice cakes or any other food from the bike? Or share a recipe if you do. Zoki999. You know what? I went through a period in 2013 where I religiously made rice cakes, and it was a bit of a faff. Actually, the easiest thing to make is flapjack and butter, syrup, oats, and then any dried fruit that you like. Stick it in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Equal amounts of butter and syrup is a good way to go. Yeah, I could probably find a recipe and post one of those up. Yeah. What were the older questions you wanted to get through? This is Lordy Lego again. I don't think I'm going to get there because there's a lot of comments that I'm starting to miss now. What's the most money I've ever won in a bike race? Mark Haylett. I can't remember the actual amount, but we went to Korea one year, and South Korea that is, and we did really, really well. Also, one year I won a TV in Libya, and I don't think many people can probably say that. My favorite team bike. Oh, that's a good question. My Lapierre bikes at the moment. Mike Chaganis, hey Chris, how do I gain confidence on my time trial bike? I feel I'm all over the road when I change gear or try to look behind. I'm worried about going out on the road. That's an interesting one. The time trial bike is all about feeling comfortable, and I think that's the same with any sort of bike. Simply riding it out on the road is probably the place to start with shallow wheels. Often time trial bikes will come with deep section wheels. I think it's really important to start out with just standard shallow wheels. Try and ride somewhere where it's not too windy and where you have safe, smooth surfaces. There aren't going to be too many direction changes and things like that. Contact time with the bike. And if that doesn't work, it could be that you might want to try altering your actual position on the bike a tiny bit so that you haven't got too much pressure on your elbows and that you're still steering from your hips and your core rather than actually trying to steer with your elbows. That can help you a little bit as well. Lander Stevens. After years of fixed gear riding, I started a roadie with my air road and find myself as a sprinter. Any training advice, favorite interval sessions you can recommend for as a sprinter? That's an interesting question. I really like 6 or 8 times 20 seconds max sprints on the road. If you do it into a gradient, you'll do it on what I always refer to as a dying cadence. So you're going to have to exert more and more torque as it goes on, which is great for sustaining a high power. But in reality, if you're sprinting in a bike race, generally you're going to be getting faster and faster as you get towards the finish, obviously depending on wind direction and things like that. So sprinting down a slight gradient is going to be really good for you as well. So you're trying to chase the power. So you're trying to, as your cadence is building, you're having to accelerate to stay on top of the gear, and your legs are accelerating to stay on top of the gear. And it's going to be hard to maintain that sort of torque output, but because of that, it's going to be a really beneficial fast sprint. Also, trying to get aerodynamic and maintaining good form on the bike is also really, really important. Troy Collett, were you teammates with Alex Payton, who's now on GCN? Yeah, we were in, I think, 2017 and 18. I've missed a few questions here. Whoa, so many questions, which is amazing. I had no idea what to expect, and it's been a while since I've tried to talk and read this fast. Oh, look at this, 9 out of 10 pronunciation from Awab. I'm not going to pronounce your second name again, just because I apparently did it quite well the first time. Will I ever return to GCN? I would rule that one out. How many bikes do I own? I don't know that I own any of my own bikes, actually. No, I don't think I do, which, yeah, is... Oh, no, that's not true. My first ever race bike from when I was 10 years old, I suppose technically belongs to my parents, but that one's still here. Here we go. Let's find some more. How are you finding indoor training with my new setup? Yeah, I like it. So modern indoor trainer setups, this is from Jordan Wooden. Modern indoor trainer setups are better when I first started cycling. It's a lot easier to spend more time on them because they are better and it's more varied, and it's probably closer to riding outdoors than it ever has been. Riding outdoors, for me, is always more enjoyable if the weather's reasonably okay. Like if it's above 10 degrees and it's not raining, then I would always choose to go outdoors. Even if it's drizzling at 10 degrees, I think it's okay. Nice to hear other people relax in the same way. James Lilly, advice for a 15-year-old, 62 kilos, threshold of 240, max power of 1080, training and getting into racing. You don't sound too dissimilar from myself at that age, actually, because 1080 watts for that weight is good and that age. Just enjoy riding your bike. That's the most important thing for anyone under 18, I think, is to enjoy riding your bike. Try and ride with lots more experienced people. That's the best way to gain information. The closer you are to their, like, the more often you can ride with people that are good, the more you'll pick up on without even realizing it, and it will just become instinct to you, and that is so important. That's why racing as a child is actually quite a good way of bringing yourself on, and that's why I think youth racing is quite important for certain people and certain riders. That's from James Lilly. Ian Bull. Hi Chris, can you speak Dutch? Yes, I can. I mean, I could prove it to you, but you probably wouldn't understand what I was saying. I spent lots of time in the Netherlands when I was younger, and lived in a family in Amersfoort, and 2 of the children were younger than I am, and 2 of them were a little bit older, and a lot of the TV was American with Dutch subtitles, so reading it, learning how to type it or to write it was quite easy, actually. And it's a relatively logical example. And of course, I'm being waved at from behind the camera. I may have met somebody that I was quite fond of who helped as well. How do I get around indoor and outdoor power zone differences? Generally, this is from Graham Roberts, generally I will curse and swear and suffer indoors and still get nowhere near my outdoor power difference. It's somewhere between 5 and 10%, depending on the day, depending on the ventilation and the humidity and things like that. It is harder indoors to produce the same power as you do outdoors. I've never changed training zones because of it. I've just kind of accepted that I'll be at the lower end of the zone rather than the middle or the top. It's quite straightforward that way. Joshua Jack Smith, I'm fast and looking forward to getting faster. No question, just thought I'd tell you. Oh, that's fair enough, Joshua. Quite like that. Jordan Wooden, could we expect any videos in the near future on nutrition? Well, I've sort of promised a flapjack video. I've not really promised a flapjack video. I've never been like a complete nerd about nutrition. I think there are so many good resources out there. I've always just gone for the balanced approach. Like I don't use any sports supplements at the moment, other than in emergencies, electrolytes, or maybe like the occasional protein drink if I was, completely broken, as in sore and exhausted. Just everything, variety. That's the most important thing. There are so many nutrients in real foods that if you start relying on supplements and things like that, you're going to miss out on. So just a really good balanced diet and everything in moderation and nothing too crazy. Don't eliminate foods. What age did I peak as a cyclist? Probably about 15 years old. That's from Dara Clark. What age did I peak as a cyclist? I often think of 2013 as my best year because everything was right. Everything worked. We had amazing equipment, amazing coach, amazing teammates. And I was about 26 in 2013, I think. That makes sense. So yeah, 25 to 26. But I also think it's motivation, it's everything. If you're on an upward trajectory, everything's more exciting and what's happening. Even though I suppose quantifiably my better results came when I was a little bit older, that was still the year that I would refer to as being my peak, which seems like a long time ago now, 8 years ago. Just finished a 40k ride. This is Harry Teteru. Realised halfway through I didn't have my helmet on. This is how everyone used to ride a bike. No one used to wear helmets ever. Any recommendation or ideas on making sure your gear is prepped and complete before a ride? Just put it in a pile. That's what I would do. If I had to get up early the next day and go out and ride, or if I knew that I was going to be up against the clock, I would have everything laid out and ready to go. I can assure you, though, in real life, that doesn't really ever happen. It's I'm not disorganized, but sometimes I like to try and rush. Speed is a big thing in my life, as in everything I do, I like to try and do it quickly, which you probably noticed from the way I speak. Okay, I've just missed a couple of questions here. I've scrolled too far with the mouse, which makes it quite difficult to then find it again. Who shall we go for? So my intention was to answer the questions from the previous video. I'll start here for a second. Liam Cameron, when will I Zwift race Cam Jeffers? I have no idea. One day, we definitely will. I can't guarantee when. Maybe in the upcoming months. I would imagine there's going to be plenty of chance for that sort of thing to happen. I don't think anyone's going to be racing outside for at least, well, April, maybe, if we're lucky. In Europe, it's going to be a little bit different. Anna Phillips, advice as to overcome downhill fears at speed. That's a really good one. I think riding outside on the road and going downhill and you want to go fast, you really have to relax, and it definitely takes time. Have confidence in your brakes. Make sure, the first thing I'll do is always make sure that everything on my bike was tight. So my hoods are tight onto my bars are tight onto the stem is tight onto the head tube, and crucially, the front wheel is tight on the front frame. Like if your back wheel comes loose, it's not actually the end of the world. It's not going anywhere. But if your front wheel came loose, it would be. Then check your tires and your brakes. And once you're confident on all of those, then you can start to think about going fast. I think just relaxing your hands on the bike is really important, because you don't need your hands to be tight. Once your hands are tight, your arms become tight, your shoulders become tight, and then the movements that you're putting into the bike are no longer as smooth as you would like them to be. Cycling's quite riding the bike, you don't need to manhandle it as such. You just need to kind of let it flow underneath you. You certainly don't want to be slamming on the brakes in the corners, so slow down well in advance of the corner. You don't need to go around corners fast. And if it's high speed that you're worried about, it's rare that for any reason something would happen just because of the speed itself. You need to be aware of external factors, obviously, like things running out on the road, cars, that sort of thing. But it is rare that accidents happen because of speed itself on a road bike. So relaxing and enjoying it. I genuinely enjoy and feel safe going fast, which is sometimes a bit of a problem. But on the whole, it's been okay. Somehow I've managed to get all these questions in a weird order. Yeah, I'm just looking back through them. Another question from Chris Bowman. Do I still have the world record for the penny farthing on the indoor velodrome? To my knowledge, yes. However, I did receive a message today on my phone from Neil Lufton, who was there with us when we did the first training. No, he came to the actual world hour record as well on the indoor velodrome and the outdoor one. He said that there is a group in America that this year could well be going for the record as well. So I have it at the moment, but may not be by the end of the year. Justin Freeman, hi Chris, Cotswolds or Cornwall? That depends on lots of things. Road riding, Cotswolds every day of the week, because it's quiet, the roads are varied. On the whole, the road surfaces are better. If you want views though, Cornwall. And if you would like to go mountain biking, Cornwall also just pips it, actually, I think. But that's partly because I really know where I'm going. Dara Clark, do you use a Wahoo kicker? I do not. I have been using a Saris setup because that's what St. Piran is sponsored by. And it's proved really good. Like I said a minute ago, it's completely changed how I train indoors. Robbie Beauchamp, I've actually gotten to where I enjoy indoor training slightly more than riding out in a heavy city traffic. I can completely understand that. Gareth Taffy W. Hi, Chris. Good to have you back. Is there a way of increasing your natural cadence, or is it just training more fast twitch by going lower power and high cadence more often? That's a good question. Yeah, you can definitely change your natural cadence or what you feel comfortable doing. I would start in blocks of around 6 minutes. And then if your natural cadence out on the road, and if you go for a ride and you come back and you've averaged 80 RPM, for example, I would then try and force your body to do 100 to 110 for those 6 minute blocks. And you could do 3, 4, 5 of those blocks throughout any one ride. But the important thing is to not let your cadence drop below that 100 RPM in those efforts. So it's not the average cadence you're aiming for, it's a minimum cadence of 100. Do that over a period of weeks and you'll find that actually your average does come up a bit. Although there is no scientific evidence to say that you should do that. Like, your body has its own natural happy place and there is no necessary reason to actually try and bring your cadence up. It will lower the torque loading on your muscles, which in theory can help reduce muscle fatigue. But I believe there was a study years ago that proved that actually pedaling at a slower cadence of around 70 to 80 is actually more efficient than trying to pedal at a cadence like you might see Chris Froome do on the television. What's my happiest moment last year? This is from Awab. We've done this surname already. Abdullalai. No, I've done it terribly this time. Happiest moment last year, probably when I finished the 460-kilometer ride and actually got off my bike. That was my happiest cycling moment. We also moved back to Cornwall. That was a happy moment. There were lots of happy moments last year. I know on the whole, the world probably didn't experience last year in the way that I did, but actually the year gave me almost everything that I really craved at the start of that year. Lots of happy moments. How many times a week do you go out for a ride and do you combine your rides with the gym? This is from Leonard Peterson. How many times do I ride? I probably ride 5 to 6 times a week. And apart from the last 2 weeks, I have been doing my own like garden gym setup, which is some weights that are older than I am and some pallets and like a square of about 4 by 4 meters. It's quite effective and it's quite hard and I quite enjoy it. There's a mat. I do some plank work, as in, you know, holding a plank and then moving from that position, press ups, sit ups, nothing crazy whatsoever, and some squats. And I quite enjoy doing that. It's a 45-minute session that I was doing twice a week up until about 2 weeks ago, actually. And I don't know. I've not asked Stefan if I'm going to be doing that again. I imagine at some point that will come back in again. If you can wheelie, any tips from Dara Clark? Hold your back, cover your back brake. You'll find there's a natural balance point on a bike, and every bike is slightly different. Road bikes are easier to wheelie because the tires are skinnier, meaning the bike is easier to like manipulate side to side. But cover that back brake. Sometimes squeezing the front brake as you go to pop the wheel up will help, just because of the way the braking force accelerates the lift of the front wheel. Do it on grass as well. Yes, I can also wheelie a mountain bike. What is your experience on it? What do you think? Oh. People generally say that riding indoors on a turbo trainer is very different, especially sprinting, and that they can't output the same watts as outdoors. What's my experience on that? It is very different because the turbo trainer is locked to the floor. This is Lord de Lego. But it's not so different that you can't. It's not so different that I can't put out the same power. I used to think it was the case, but I think motivation plays a huge part and things like that. If you're not motivated indoors, it's going to be very, very, very hard to actually put out the same amount of power as you do outside. You can't move the bike in the same way, though I have a rocker plate here, which actually means, although it is counterintuitive, you have to force the bike the way you would outdoors. So if you're left leg down, you have to kind of push the bike over to the right. Otherwise, because of the spring loading and the leaf suspension in a way that's underneath of it, it wants to tip the way that you're pushing, so you sort of have to push back against it, but it does make it a lot easier. Joshua Jack Smith, annoying to think I've hit most of my best numbers on the turbo, but then it depends what you're trying to do on the turbo trainer, and if you have, you know, suitable roads outside and things like that. Here's a question from Steve Lampier. He sounds like a lovely young man, doesn't he? Steve's actually 3 years older than I am, and he's technically my manager at St. Piran. So you're undoubtedly the best sprinter in the UK. How did it feel to lose a sprint on a mountain bike for the Stidin sign? I would guess that was in about 2004. Steve and I have a very interesting relationship with each other when it comes to riding bikes and trying to get one over on each other on the silliest of training rides. I'm still struggling with that. I still have the bike that you out sprinted me that I was riding on at the time. Maybe it's before 2004. It was that black and red Specialized, which is one of only 2 bikes. It's not even a complete bike anymore, it's just a frame. Lordy Lego asked Steve, how is he doing? Steve maybe will reply to him. Look, Steve's got some friends here, look at this. Why did I stop GCN? Sepp Dernez. I didn't enjoy it, simply. That's the easiest way of answering that. It wasn't what I'd hoped it would be. What camera do I use to make my videos? This is Julie Mahoney again. I use a combination of things. I started off using an Insta360 1R, which has 2 different lenses with it. One's a 360 lens, which I thought was perfect for the filming that I wanted to do on the bike. Nowadays, I use a GoPro Hero 8 or a GoPro Max, which is again a 360 camera. The only issue with Max is it's got phenomenal microphones, but you can't plug in an external microphone. So that's why I use the Hero 8 alongside of it, and it's a really good setup. I'd love to use a real camera, as in, you know, a proper camera with an actual screw-in lens. I'm sure it's got a name. You can see how unexperienced I am with that sort of thing. Maybe one day. MJ Silver, what is a good cadence for a 62-year-old 100 kilo rider? My natural cadence is 85 to 90 RPM. That's fast enough. You know what? Cadence is really, really specific to the individual. Some people really like to pedal quickly. When I was younger, I pedaled a lot faster than I do now. But also at the terrain that you're riding in Cornwall, it's not unheard of to have an average cadence from a ride of like 72 to 78. Whereas other places, if it's flat, you might want to pedal a bit faster just to stay on top of the gear. So if you're riding in the Netherlands where it's pan flat, you might ride at 88 to 92 RPM, for example. How did I find managing asthma with this winter's training and the crazy world we're in at the moment? That's from Sam J. Turton. My asthma is purely triggered by allergies. And every now and again, I have these bizarre allergy attacks, and we can't really put our finger on exactly what it is that causes that. Since I've stopped using inhalers on a regular basis, actually my asthma is much better, but that is because it's not exercise induced, which is what I was always led to believe, and it is from allergies. And I found that out through GCN, and it's quite a life-changing thing when you've believed you've had something for 22 years because you've been told that consistently and you've medicated that for a reason, to then learn that it's caused by something else was really, it's an interesting thing to try and get your head around and to try and then understand that. So it's now about trying to work out, what should I avoid? Is it food? Is it drink? Is it external, mold spores, that sort of thing, when you spend a lot of time in old houses. Keaton Johnson, should I buy a Whoop band or a Garmin Vivo Active 4S? I honestly don't know how to answer that. I think it probably depends on what you want to use it for. I don't actually know what the Garmin Vivo Active 4S is. I bought a Garmin watch, which I use a lot. I'm wearing it now. And it measures all the things that I want it to measure, like how I sleep, energy levels throughout the day. I think the Whoop is really good when it comes to the recovery score that it gives you. Again, I don't actually understand the terminology that they use because it is different. Every brand likes to give their set of graphs and their set of data its own unique catchphrase. I've never used a Whoop. I have used the Garmin. I'm very happy with it, and you can use it for actual activity tracking, whereas like the Whoop, I don't think you can pair it to a power meter and have a readout on the screen, for example. Jordan Wooden, what's my favorite climb? All right, I'm just going to cough a second because my throat's getting a bit dry. I've spoken flat out for 37 minutes. I can move the microphone away so I don't deafen everyone. There we go. And also, look, I could be really sneaky here and have a little drink as well. I'm sure that's just made a terrible noise in everyone's ears, but I'm very sorry. I needed to. It is Saturday. Mike is laughing at me in the corner over there. It is Saturday. We don't drink in the weekdays. Right. Favorite climb. That's a really, really difficult one to answer. I've not ridden up loads of major climbs, which is a good thing because they're hard. I rode up Mont Ventoux in 2006, and I remember, so I did it with the French club that I rode for at the time as part of a demonstration ahead of what was called Dauphiné Libéré. And it's phenomenal being on the top of Ventoux because you can see for absolutely miles around, and it's like nothing else. What sticks in my memory from that day isn't the climb itself. It was the mid-70s French director or manager of the team. I don't know what he referred to himself as. The president, actually, that's what he's called. And I remember him standing on the side of the road watching Christophe Moreau ride up in the little ring and being like, yeah, cycling's a cleaner sport now because they're no longer coming up here in the big ring. And I just kind of looked at him and thought, wow, I rode up there in first gear, which back then was 39.23. But yeah, so my favorite climb, probably not Ventoux, but most impressionable climb, possibly. Dara Clark, am I sponsored by Lapierre? So I have a really nice relationship with Lapierre UK. Yes, it is a form of sponsorship, and I very much enjoy riding their bikes. And yeah, that's the best way of summing that up. I'm very lucky. I'm very happy. Leonard Patterson, what do I do for a living? I often ask myself that question. I have been a bike rider. I've been a GCN presenter. Up until last week, I was also a bike rider, and I am still a bike rider. I do have complementary things to go alongside that, and you'll probably find out about them in the upcoming weeks. So yeah, stay tuned for that. How do I maintain fitness while having a broken elbow? Sep Dernez. You should ask Steve Lampier this one because he broke his elbow quite badly many years ago. I imagine you can ride an indoor trainer. I would take the time to relax and let your body heal. It would be my honest advice. When your elbows healed to the point that you can ride your bike again, that's when I would get back on your bike. I'm sure there are still some basic things you can still move. Try not to lay dormant for too long each day. Awab again. Will I ever launch my own merch? By the way, the pronunciation was quite bad this time. I felt like it was. No, I won't do my own merchandise. Sorry. I don't think it would be. I don't think anyone would buy it. I'd wear it though. I've lost a few questions here. Lamps is a superstar. He's guilty for giving us a somewhat pro-cam Jeffers. Yep, Lamps is a bit of a superstar. I get the idea. You might know him. Galen Kayla. Look up Matt Heyman. Oh, look up Matt Halen in the year 1 Paris-Roubaix. Trained with a broken arm. There you go. Indoor trainer. That's advice for the broken elbow question. Cycling. Hi, Chris. I was wondering if you could talk me through how to corner. I had a big off last September, and it put me back to square one. Right, Jamie. Relax. Just slow. You don't have to go fast at all. It's all about just feeling confident and building it from there. If you're not happy, it depends on the reason of your crash. So if the crash was genuinely your fault, maybe try and look at why it happened. So I've fallen off my bike many times. Sometimes it was because I didn't have great tires. There's a huge difference between a good tire, an average tire, and a bad tire. And yeah, good tires are expensive, but at the same time, they can really transform your bike. I would have thought, no, in my opinion, if I was to change one thing on any bike, the biggest effect or the biggest difference you'll notice is the quality of the tires, you know, going from cheap to expensive. And that's over group sets, over wheels, or over anything like that. So maybe just check that you have good quality tires and that you're happy with, and that everyone in your group of riding buddies is like in agreement with that. Once you've gotten past that stage, relax, go into the corner slowly. There's no prizes for crashing for a start. There's a few things that I learned along the years. Riding at 100%, it's fun, it's fast, but if anything goes wrong, you've got zero margin for error. Riding at 90% or 95%, you've still got that little buffer for safety, and that's something that I learned a little bit too late, if I'm honest. But at the same time, when I did learn it, and when I did kind of cement that into my mind when I was on my bike, it really made a massive difference. And actually, cornering, descending, things like that were much more enjoyable after that. So don't push it. If someone's faster than you down a descent, maybe pay attention to what it is they're doing, but don't stress. There are no prizes for crashing. It's flat down here in Miami. I don't know what my image of Miami was, but it's quite nice to know that it's flat. Maybe one day I'll find myself there. That'd be nice. Matt Ellis. Oh my, OMG. Is that the real Chris Opie? I could come back to that with OMG. Is that the real Matt Ellis? Matt Ellis is my teammate. He also has a YouTube channel, lots of videos, and you can ride with Matt indoors on Zwift if you'd like to. Hi, Chris. I'm an older rider, 50, still fit, limited funds. I'm having a tough time deciding whether to get a power meter or some new carbon wheels. Oh, that's an interesting one. I think my answer to this might have changed over the years. If you have a disc brake bike, the carbon wheels will last forever. Whereas if you as a rim brake bike, you can only really use them on nice days. The power meter. I used to religiously swear by riding with a power meter, but actually over the last 3 years, admittedly, since I've not been racing, I've noticed that it is genuinely possible to train really well without one. It's obviously a little bit different to using one. It's not quite as absolute, as it were, as in, you know, if your heart rate's at 170, your power can be anything. It can be freewheeling. But at the same time, as long as you maintain that constant pressure on the pedals, the chances are you're never going to be that far off. And there are really good apps out there to help estimate your power. You'll probably enjoy the carbon wheels more, though you'd probably long-term benefit more from the power meter. I suppose it really does depend on the actual cost of either. I would never buy a cheap power meter. I'd sooner buy cheap wheels than a cheap power meter, because a cheap power meter can often throw up issues, and you know, then you're relying on their customer service. Then you're going to be without that power meter for a set period of time. And in that case, I would have chosen the wheels. It's a difficult one. I go with the wheels, actually. Can I give you fun, embarrassing stories about Ellis? Well, no, I can't. We've not been able to race all of last year, so sadly not. Lots of people saying hello to Matt. That's nice. How do you mount? Right, this is Charlie Tompkins. How do you mount, or what do I mount my GoPro Max with? Try the pole at the front, the bars, but the cheap mount that he used snapped. Right, there's a few things. I didn't. This is completely unprepared. I'm next to my camera bag. So this thing is a 3-meter selfie pole, and at different times I've taped that to the side of my bike, and then stuck it out in front so it extends. Obviously, my arm span is not 3 meters. But what I normally use is the camera on the end of this, and then mounted to a K-edge mount on the front of my bike. Now I have 2 of these metal pieces. Not actually sure where the other one. Not sure where the other one is right now. But when those 2 metal pieces are connected to each other, that's 42 centimeters, and that sticks out the front of the bike. And that's where you can then spin the camera around, zoom out a little bit, and look back at the rider as if someone else is filming. And it's proved really effective. You can see that I even used it today. There's a little bit all over the camera there. But yeah, between those 2 things, there's nothing you can't do. You could even take that to your bars and have it at the side. And then with that 360 camera, it really makes it a lot easier to try and frame a shot. I've noticed going between the 2, when I use the Hero camera, Hero 8, it's actually quite difficult because I'm not practiced at framing things. It's difficult to get everything in shot. Hopefully that's a bit of help. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do a full ride with these things sticking on your bike because it doesn't look great. But I spend a lot of time either riding by myself or not really caring what other people think. So that does help. Christopher O'Connor. Hey, Chris. I now have asthma since getting sick and becoming intolerant to dairy and cereal grains. Yeah, dairy when I was younger was quite a bad one. It's definitely made life more difficult. Yeah, it's once you realize that there are certain things that trigger whatever it is you have in life, you end up naturally focusing, oh, I can't have this or I can't have that. But sometimes it helps to explore, and you'll notice there are lots of other good things, especially these days. There's so many good dairy replacements. Whilst, they are processed, they're not quite as natural, perhaps. They are good alternatives. Loving the nerd data on my left-only road bike, but not really using as a training tool. Is there an advantage of a power meter on a mountain bike? That's a good question. So I do have a power meter on my mountain bike, but depending on the sort of rides you do, if you do like gravel type rides, this is from Daniel Reynolds, you may well find that actually having a power meter on your mountain bike is quite effective. However, if you do really technical rides and you're up and down, it's hilly, lots of twists, lots of turns, then the power meter on your mountain bike is almost irrelevant because you're no longer using it to do your training. It's the terrain is dictating your effort to you. And I think that's a big a big thing to consider is if you're doing proper gravel type rides on a mountain bike, cross country rides, then yeah, sure, a power meter is going to help. Like today, I did with Tristan a predominantly gravel-esque ride. We were pedaling a lot of the time. Half of it was probably on the road. But if you're doing technical rides, no. Sam J. Turn. Right, the dog needs walking. Have a great evening, Chris. Looking forward to your future videos. Thank you. Enjoy the dog walk. My dog's gone to sleep on my feet. What's my honest opinion of how things ended for One Pro Cycling? Probably about right. They came in with some brash goals. They were very confident. They probably didn't quite have the financial capacity to fulfill what they wanted to do, which led to lots of stress. It was a really good team in 2015. In 2016, it's probably a little bit more than everyone had bargained for, as in there was lots of travel, 3 different race programs, things like that. Lots of complications. And then also it coincided with sort of just after the peak of British cycling, didn't it? Where this amazing period from 2009 through to 2016. And then after that, it's quite a pyramid either side. It was a steep rise and quite a steep drop, really. Dan Sutherland, what would you say to someone wanting to ride for the St. Piran development team? Send Steve Lamprey an email. He'll like that. It's actually not got a huge amount to do with Steve. Steve runs the elite team or the UCI team. Just ride your bike, enjoy riding your bike, get some results, get some experience, and then send an email. That's the best way to do it, I think. Can you keep your 5-minute, your 20-minute, etc. max power numbers by just doing base rides for months? That's from Martson. That's a good question. Yeah, you can, but it's not going to feel pretty the first time you try and access those things, and it might take a few rides to try and activate those energy systems again, and it's going to hurt. But yes, you're unlikely to lose as long as you maintain good recovery between those rides and things like that. Juha Lettinen. I don't have a beer now, but this Highland Park work as a substitute. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. Matt Ellis, yes, I'm real. Am I upset that Cam's gone? Yeah, it's a huge loss to the team. You know, Cam has a massive following. This is from Moishi Kaufman. And he's a nice guy as well. So, yeah, there's no other way of looking at it than it is a genuine shame. But, you know, he's a young, ambitious, successful bike rider, and he'll have lots of fun at Ribble, I'm sure. Also, I get to beat him now, which would be nice, hopefully. Here we go. Right, we're getting down. I think I've finally started to catch up. Although Scott Robinson right at the bottom is saying, "Hi Chris, where does one get to buy some of that cool St. Piran kit?" I know Scott quite well. You could probably squeeze into Tristan's kit, Scott, or mine. No, St. Piran have a web shop where you can log in, and you know, you even have to log in. You just go onto the web shop, St. Piran procycling.com, I think, /shop. It's not good that I don't know that, is it? Is Micah still following a training plan? Ashley Keenan? No, she hasn't over the last 4 weeks. No, that's probably why we haven't made any videos really. Partly, you know, there's not been a new update to post, and the weather's been so bad. We've had family things happening and work and life and all the rest of it. But she will be. She's ridden a bike this week indoors on the Toby trainer, getting ready to get back outdoors again. In Finland, Zwift is the best option for me to do training with the bike. Try to do different variations, a little bit of base training, and sometimes loads higher power. Not too much, just have fun. Yeah, it sounds, again, balance, variation. I think that's quite key. Alan Lynn, hey Chris. Hey Alan. Big Chris. Oh dear. Louis Martineau thinks I look big. That's bad. I'm heavier than I used to be though. Andy Partingham, single 44-year-old dad, so funds are tight. I have £2,000 to £3,000 to buy a new bike. Would a gravel bike be okay to use for both road and gravel? Predominantly ride solo and longer rides. Yeah, absolutely. I think gravel bike is perfect because it's scope then to do loads of different things with. You could put pannier bags on it, pannier racks, and then load up with luggage and go and have a proper explorer. You know, do something really completely random that you've never done before. Equally, you could strip it right down, make it really lightweight, put loads of light components on it. But £2,000 to £3,000 for a gravel bike is, you know, or euros, whatever currency that's in, is more than enough. You'll have a really nice bike for that price, and I think you really enjoy riding it as well. Can I join the St. Piran development team at 27 years old? Yes, you can. If the guys there like you and you fit well within what they're trying to achieve, then there's no reason why not. I don't think there's an age restriction, to my knowledge, on that team at all. That team is as much about the development of younger riders and older riders, and it's just a community sort of feel to that team. It's not just about performance, which is important. Daniel Saber, I'm 15, wanting to turn pro. However, I'm not sure where to start. I've been regional champ, finished top 20 in the UK a few years back. A race. If you want to be a pro bike rider, you need to become proficient at racing. That's quite self-explanatory. I think cycling's going through this really interesting period right now, where it's probably easier than ever to make money and a career from cycling, though the reality is that will possibly never, or in the future, not come from one revenue stream like it used to. So you used to sell yourself to a team, you'd ride for that team and do nothing else alongside of it. I find it hard to believe that that's going to be a model for the rest of the time. And I think there'll be many different ways that you can create some sort of revenue from a team. But race results, your attitude, your reputation and things like that will also go a long way. And what your peers think of you and things like that, because the cycling world is small. So being nice to people is very important. Carbon frame or carbon wheels? Carbon wheels over a carbon frame. Aluminium is really good. And yeah, I would choose aluminium frames, carbon wheels. You'd have an amazing bike still. That's from Kai Green. Tactics for someone without a team or racing solo. That's from Alan Lynn again. make sure people realize that you don't have to waste your energy if you're a solo rider. You don't ever have to pull back a brake if you're in the brake by yourself. It's almost like a ticket to sit on. You can be a lot more efficient with your energy if you're a solo rider, which I think is quite a bonus, really. Dan Sutherland, what is Steve Lampier's by any chance? I'm not really sure what that question is. It's missing out a crucial part of that question. We could guess at anything there, couldn't we? What is Steve Lampier's? Steve Lampier's what? His laundry routine? His hygiene routine? I just don't know. John Rogers, hi Chris. Wonder if you ever had a favourite course from the Tour series? Any favourite layouts of the crits? Lots of corners or climbs like Durham? Definitely not lots of corners or climbs like Durham. I really didn't like that one. The Tour series UK City Centre Circuit Race Series. The best one is Canary Wharf, but I would say that because I did well there. Stoke-on-Trent actually was a really good circuit because it had a bit of a gradient going up one side. Redditch, again, quite a similar story. Anything with a gradient that made it raceable but not brutal. The flat ones, they're almost too easy, and the really hilly ones or the really brutal ones like Durham are almost too hard. But it's that middle ground where there's a bit of gradient, a little bit of undulation, a few technical corners, had a mixture of everything. Redditch was quite a simple circuit that had 3 really nice corners and a gradient, and that made it a lot of fun to race. And a similar story for Stoke-on-Trent. Right. I'm trying to work out which ones. Oh, a Highland Park whiskey is my substitute for beer. I don't drink whiskey, but that sounds nice. I wish I could tell you this is a bottle of water, but it's not. It's my Saturday evening treat. And that was Juha Alettinen, who is in Finland, I think he said. What age? This is Daniel Saber. What age do I need to be to start emailing bigger teams to join them, such as St. Piran and Conti, etc.? Well, a second-year junior, so when you're 17, 18, is a good time to start getting in touch with teams, I think, realistically, because that's when you're in the shop window for those teams that are looking to recruit younger riders. All teams want to develop young riders. That's why teams exist at that level. It's an important part of who they are and what they're trying to achieve. Scott Robinson, outside of races this year, do you have any other cycle-related challenges or goals? To be as good on my mountain bike as you are, Scott, basically. To look as cool on my mountain bike as you look. And then I'll be very happy. Matt Ellis, did I ever ride the Peterborough Tour Series? I did. I've got a story about the Peterborough Tour Series. In 2010, or maybe 11, we went to that event with the team. And a brake went up the road. And my teammate was in the brake. But he decided he really, really needed to go for a wee. So he stopped, went for a wee, got back on his bike, got back into the brake, and then was told that he was going to be disqualified because he'd effectively lost a lap. He'd taken a lap out to go to the toilet. Anyway, my teammate was then not very happy about this. So he decided, I'm not going to take a lap back. I'm not going to take a lap out. I'll take my lap back. And he then proceeded to attack the brake, which he was sort of disqualified from being in, and lapped not just the entire bunch, but also the brake as well. And then was disqualified as well. I'm not going to tell you who that was, but if you know who it was, it's quite a funny story. Have I ever thought about improving my production quality? I have. I definitely have. And I'd like to learn a lot more. I have very limited funds to put into this. I don't make any money doing it. I did briefly try the advertising. A lot of what I've spent the last month doing is learning how to do little bits of editing and things like that. I like following the online courses. One day I will upscale how I do things here, hopefully. Matt Taylor, when trying to join a road cycling team, what should a DS mainly be looking for? Race results, wins, power numbers? I think that a director sportive needs to be able to see that a rider can contribute to a team, as in they have an aura about them that shows they're not in it just for themselves, but also that they have that winning instinct, which is almost a contradiction because then you have to be in it for yourself. Power numbers don't, I feel, say a huge amount about who someone is, because power meters, some aren't that good. Some can be quite unreliable. Some can be, sorry, I'm distracted. Matt Ellis says he was 10 in 2010, which is a little bit upsetting to me because I was already 23. So power output is important, but it's not the be all and end all. Race results speak volumes. No excuses when someone fills out a CV. Like you see a lot of people, oh, this would have happened, but I hit a dog or something like that. No one's interested in those stories. It's results and just your general positive persona, I think. Have I ever raced at Wheel Jane? Ollie Skills? No, I haven't. I've been around it in a car. It's a local race circuit. It's a good one, but I've never raced it. Keaton Johnson, would you have raced up Haytor in the 2016 Tour of Britain? No, but I rode from my home in Cornwall at the time to Haytor to go and watch it, and it was the longest day at that point that I ever had, to the point that we ended up riding back to a pub halfway home and calling for a lift. Hi Chris, can you give me some tips for juniors? This is from Tom. I'm 13, wanting to do cyclocross and cross country. Yeah, ride your bike with more experienced people. I think that's the most important thing for young riders. You'll pick little things up from older riders, whether you realize you're doing it or not. And that is just the most beneficial experience that you can ever gain. It's quite hard at that age to go to lots and lots of bike races, depending on where you live and things like that. But if you can ride with older riders, they will pass down pointers to you. No one else will be able to give you, because they're there, they're riding with you, they're watching you, they can see what's going on. I think that is really important. Spike Cycles, what do you think of the new young rider for your team, Ewan Evans? By all accounts, on our WhatsApp group, Ewan seems like a good lad. I don't know Ewan. We've not met our teammates. Obviously, with everything going on, half of them, or the new rider, it's just impossible to meet them. But he wouldn't be on our team if he wasn't a good guy, from what I understand. That's part of what a team is. If a team doesn't get on, then they're not going to perform well. And you have to have people around you that you like and that you believe will do a good job and represent the team in a healthy manner. I have no idea who that was, but it sounds like something Lamps would have done. No, it wasn't Lamps. That's referring to the Peterborough Tour Series. Daniel Saba, I was 5 in 2010. I only realised today that a lot of the things that I talk about were like 15 or 20 years ago. And whilst I know I'm not old, it does make you feel old when you have teammates telling you how young they were at different stages. Like I ride my mountain bike with Tristan quite a lot, whose mum taught me at school, who I like to remind that quite often. But I'll tell him stories about, oh, this happened in 2006. And he's like, oh, 2006, how old was I? No, you don't need to say that. Vittoria or Reynolds entry-level rim carbon wheels, how deep? 40 or 50 for an all-round road bike in a mostly flat area. MJ Silver, 50 mil if it's genuinely flat and it's not too windy. 40 is great when it's hilly and a little bit windy. Vittoria or Reynolds, that comes down to budget and personal preference, I think, really. Reynolds are more well-known for making rims. I didn't actually know Vittoria made carbon rims, if I'm really honest. So yeah, 50 mil Reynolds rims would be really nice. Hi Chris, I recently got a coach. Just wondering what I could do to make his job as easy as possible. That's actually a really good question. That's from Dara O'Donnell. So you've recently got a coach. Communicating with them in the comments section when you upload your rides, I assume, to somewhere like Training Peaks, some sort of online training platform. Communication is the most important thing. If you don't communicate to your coach, they'll not understand. So the more detailed you can be with your post-ride descriptions, how you felt, how motivated you were, things like that, that's going to do more than anything to help accelerate the first few weeks of that relationship. Christopher O'Connor, hey Chris, what was the best team bike I ever rode and why? I was asked that earlier, and I kind of avoided that question by saying I really like riding the Lapierre bikes. My best ever team bike. I'm not going to answer that. I can tell you the worst. There's been lots of worse bikes. On the whole, though, bikes these days, they're all quite close. I reckon most of us are just choosing between the design that we like, the affordability of the bike. Cam does still ride a bike. Moshi. Someone's saying they're running out of questions. I'm running out of puff and the ability to answer the questions, and it has been a good hour and 5 minutes now. Is anyone interested in doing another one of these one day? If 3 people say yes in the next few seconds, then I will probably do another one of these at some point. Tom would like to know which training sessions are best for cross-country and cyclocross. If you're riding off-road a lot of the time, the most important thing not to neglect would be to build your aerobic fitness. A lot of the time when we ride off-road, our efforts are very, very short. And oh wow, there's lots of yeses. Okay, so we'll do another live at some point. And if you don't fill those little gaps that you're missing out on with solid pedaling, basically, to build that aerobic fitness, then you will slowly but surely start to realize that you're falling behind everyone else, as in your aerobic capacity. So if you're riding lots of cyclocross and cross country, I actually recommend doing some good long road rides as well, every now and again, maybe one a week, something like that. And that's really going to help boost that fitness that you're otherwise not going to get by purely riding off road. Right, I'm going to call it there, because I normally go to bed quite early, if I'm honest, and I'd like to get up quite early tomorrow to get on my bike. Bigger the base, higher the peak. That's Matt Ellis there. Struggling. Okay, I'll do. Okay, I'm going to do 3 more answers. I think that's fair. James Felon. Hey Chris, struggling for motivation to get back on the bike. Any tips to get back in love with it again? Don't force it. I think that's an important thing. I'm sure we've all been there where we've fallen out of love with riding our bikes, and it's just not as exciting. This is a particularly bad time of the year. If you're in the northern hemisphere, that is it's not that inspirational to get outside, is it? Not very inspiring at all. So kind of trust that it will come back. Maybe try something else. I think the best thing to make you realize that you really enjoy cycling is to try running, because running is horrible. Some people say they enjoy it, and I'm not really sure how. I've tried it a little bit. It's really good for fitness. Just give it time. There's no rush. Sometimes actually taking 4 weeks off your bike or 3 weeks off your bike, you won't lose that much fitness in that time, but what you gain back in motivation and wanting to go and do it will reap dividends in the end. Oh, good luck with your training tomorrow, Josh, because that sounds absolutely horrible. 310 watts, 14-minute repeats. Depending on how many repeats there are, that won't be a lot of fun. MG Silver, I'm just going to do your wheel question one more time. I would go with the Reynolds and 50 if it's flat where you live. I didn't know Vittoria did the carbon wheels. But also, if it's flat and it's not too windy where you live, 50 mil would be really good. If it's hillier and windier, then I would go with the 40 mils. Awab again. Have any of my children expressed an interest in pursuing cycling? My little boy loves mountain biking. So the video I did yesterday, there's a little clip in there of someone called Sam Pilgrim, who's one of the best known mountain bikers on YouTube. I think it's fair to say. My little boy idolizes him. And when you meet him in real life, amazing guy. My little boy, in his head, thinks he's Sam Pilgrim. And I think mountain biking is a healthy community. I think the roads where we are here probably just aren't quite safe enough at the moment. Maybe in the future that will change as car use declines, things like that. But yeah, mountain biking, I think, is probably where it's at. So it's a nice community feel, away from the traffic. Right, that's it. I am going to say goodbye to everyone. And we will do another one of these. I don't know when. I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to be a weekly thing. Maybe at the end of January. Maybe that's a good time to do it again. The last weekend of January. The last Saturday in January at 8 p.m. I'm going to have to write that down. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. But thank you very, very much to everyone that did tune in and left a question. It's much appreciated. I'm going to press the end stream button right now. But other than just thank you, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, healthy, active, and with a little bit of luck, we'll do this again in 2 weeks' time. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.